Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Krista Burns, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly online event where we cover any activities, topics, anything that we think that may be of interest to librarians across the state. We do these sessions every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time live. They are free and last about an hour, give or take. And we have a mixture of presentations, interviews, mini training sessions, whatever, as I said, whatever we think of that might be of interest. We do record the sessions every week, so all of our three-something years of these are now available on our website, so you can watch all of our previous sessions if you want to. We have commission staff that do sessions, and we bring in guest speakers sometimes. And today we have a mixture. Once a month on NCompass Live, we bring in Michael Sauers, our Technology Innovation Librarian. He's sitting next to me.
Hello.
He's the Technology Innovation Librarian here at the Library Commission, and he does his monthly Tech Talk, sharing tech news of the month since last month, and sometimes having interviewees.
Yep.
So that is what today's is, and this is our, I should have said, welcome to our Leap Day. NCompass
Hey,
Live.
all right.
Tech Talk Leap Day.
Leap Day, NCompass Live, and Leap Day Tech Talk. So, you know, this might not even happen for like another couple
4 years. Who knows?
4 years.
You never know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm now going to hand over to Michael to do his thing.
All right. Thanks, Krista. And I just want to say too, if either of us are a little tired, we did a 8-hour one of these yesterday, our big talk from small libraries, and so we're back in our meeting room here for another hour this morning, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get out of this room again. So anyway, all right. So it is Tech Talk time, and I've never said Tech Talk time before, and I won't say it ever again. Sorry about that. This month we have a special guest on the line. We have Robert Miller, the Global Director of Books for the Internet Archive, and I've got to say, I want that title someday. I don't know. I'm a book geek. Robert, okay, I hear Robert laughing. So, Robert, you are on the line.
I will nominate and award that title to anybody who wants. It's the coolest title I've ever had, and I'm thrilled to share it.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right. I'll put like honorary global director of books or something on my business card next time around. So, Robert, what we're going to do here today is we're going to have Robert's got a kind of short presentation talking about what he does and the background of the Internet Archive. Once we get through that, I've got some questions for him. I'm sure Chris will come up with some questions. We welcome your questions. We've got after his presentation, we want to turn this into a little bit of a Q&A. So take notes, ask questions. So, Robert, what I'm going to do here is switch over to you as a presenter. So you should be seeing that button to accept that. Perfect. Good. And if you could start out by just, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And then swing on through your slides there.
Excellent. Good. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me spend my first Leap Day in 4 years. Boy, it seems so long since I've been able to do this on Leap Day. Fabulous. I have a particular attraction to Nebraska. I used to live in Kansas City and had a territory where weekly I would spend time in Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. So the heartland of America has a very special spot for me. And Krista, thank you, and Michael, thank you very much for allowing me to spend a few minutes with your august group of book lovers and librarians. And I thought I would start off showing you a little bit of who I am now, that's the lower left, and who I was in the upper right. And if you take a look at that shot, you'll see my mom, who claims that she is an archivist. I think she might be a hoarder because she keeps everything from many years ago. Actually found this photo, and it's me in the upper right checking out the first book that I can remember taking out, Pippi Longstockings, from the Pennington Public Library in Pennington, New Jersey. And Mrs. Wentworth was our lovely librarian who helped instill in me a real love of books along with my parents. And I went on to become a volunteer in the local public library, and then, my God, years later, Michael, I'm back in the libraries again, helping, I think, on one of the coolest projects I've ever had the opportunity to join. The last thing I'll say about this slide is the story behind the story. And the site of this location, Pennington Public Library, it used to be our town jail. And we repurposed it and put it and filled it with books. So I think that's really a nice model for me when I get up in the morning in terms of why do I do what I do. So let's go ahead and jump in here. So if anybody has to leave early, I want to tell you the punchline to start with. So you walk away knowing what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you're inspired to follow back up with this. So we have a signed MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between COSLA, the Chief Operating State Librarians Association, and the Internet Archive to promote the in-library lending model to all the libraries that fall into the COSLA domain. Right now we have over 1,000 libraries on board, and I'm going to talk to you about why they ended up signing up and where we think we're going to go with this, Michael, and some of the ideas that we look to libraries to help assist us with. How does it work? It's really easy. Send us one book, snail mail. We'll digitize it for free. Send us the IP addresses of how your patrons get to or access your catalog or your library online. Give us the physical address of the building, the location, what have you, and they will have immediately access to 200,000 modern ebooks free, and all they have to do is get a library card, an online library card. So that's the punchline. So you can just sit back now, put your pen on the table, and I'll give you a quick tour of the archive. I'll tell you a little bit of the philosophical struggle we went to get to this point of being able to offer modern ebooks. These are books digitized, printed after 1922 and then digitized in the last couple of years. So first I'd like to start with an invitation. There is such a thing as a free lunch, and we'd like to have you come on a Friday if you're in San Francisco. Spend the afternoon with us or come just for lunch. This is our building. We used to be renters in the Presidio in San Francisco, and we thought, well, geez, with a name like Internet Archive, we probably should own the building that we're in. So a little over a year ago, we had the good fortune to purchase a Christian Science church on the western side rather, of San Francisco. And the parishioners were able to move down the street to the other branch of their church, and we now have a wonderful library that just is oh so cool. The archive, for those of you who aren't aware, the three things I think I'm most proud of to be associated with the team here is we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Yay, nonprofits, founded in 1996. So in terms of internet years, we've been here, almost since the beginning. We got there just after Al Gore invented it. We're in the top 250 websites in the world, and that's really robust. And we're able to do that because of the work, support, and contribution of libraries such as yours. Top 250 websites in the internet. And lastly, we're a registered library in California. Thank you, State Librarian of California. So let me show you a little bit about some of the things that you might or might not be aware of. Well, first of all, being digital, we're also collecting books. So if you're deaccessioning books, please contact me. One of the premises that we have, one of the models that we work off, similar to you in the library world, we in the library world, is if you own a copy, you can loan a copy. So right of first sale, fair use. So we have purchased a building in Richmond, California, just across the bay. We've repurposed what look like storage containers here. And Michael, you're probably saying to yourself, I bet there's something more than a storage container here. It is. It's a high-density, long-term, low-cost storage module that will be fitted with temperature and humidity controls that will allow the books to last for up to 100 years. Presently, we have 350,000 books that have been physically donated to us. They come from SFPL Friends, they come from Allen County Public Library, they come from University of Chicago, come from some government deaccessioning locations. So if you have books where you're weeding things out, please think of us, we'll pay the shipping. This is a shot, one of my favorites, of a deaccession project we worked on with the San Francisco Public Library. And in 38 hours, we collected 134,000 books, and we were able to move them over to our warehouse into the long-term, high-density, low-cost storage modules that we have. And if you can't figure out the spelling here, it's books, and you probably said, I've seen Brewster Kahle speak, the founder of the Internet Archive, but I've never seen the top of his head. So if you look second from the left, the first O, that's Brewster, and that's me, second from the right. It's San Francisco, so pearls seem to go with everything, especially when you're deaccessioning books. We're actually more than just books, as you might recall. We have over 500,000 moving images online. We have over 1 million audio recordings. Actually, a really cool model that we have. We've worked with the Grateful Dead, and they have allowed us, they've allowed their users, their fans, to put up digital tapes of their concert recordings. And the rule is, as long as no money exchanges hands, This copyrighted music can be freely traded. So we're hoping that a model like this, other content holders might look to share information, self-policed, self-governed, within the archive or within the digital world. So 1 million audio recordings. And any of these file formats, you're welcome to upload. So if you have an image, if you have an audio recording, please go ahead and do that. The other thing that's really fascinating is we just released archive.org/details/9/11. Some of our 2 million hours of TV that we've been recording 24/7, 20 channels starting back in the year 2000. Let's see, Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, Fox News, and so forth. We've now increased that because 20 channels is oh so small in the modern era to 50 channels. We're getting a fair amount of data every week, and selectively as we're able to post it. So the archive.org details/9/11 collection chronicles a very tragic, poignant period in American history. And it starts from about an hour before the first plane struck the Twin Towers in New York, and it goes for about a week after. And one of the best description I've heard, Michael, about this site is it's easy to use, tough to watch. Easy to use, tough to watch. Well, easy to use, if you want to check and cross-check, almost like your own personal Jon Stewart, you can go on and when CNN says, they're dancing in the streets in Palestine after the second plane hit the trade tower. Well, let's go to Al Jazeera and see, and it turns out they're not dancing in the street. So we hope that tools like this can help us all become better citizens, better residents, better stewards of the world and the knowledge that's contained therein. I'm going to talk about the e-texts in just a few minutes, but we have over 3 million of those online. And of course, many of you have come to us and might have used us through the Wayback Machine, 150 billion, that's billion with a B, web pages online. So let me show you the path that a book takes to go from print to digital, from text to pixels. This is a scanning center. It's high volume, low cost, great quality. The items along the outside, the black shrouded hoods, are the scribes, the pieces of equipment that we've built, and I'll show you what that looks like. They digitize the books. My wonderful staff are called scanners, and they're sitting in front of the equipment. And in the center, we actually do microfilm and microfiche. So we love old stuff. So if you have a microfilm, microfiche newspaper collection, a brittle books collection, please consider us if you'd like to move that from digital, non-digital to digital. The commercial equipment we looked at that's out in the market, and many of you have been digitizing longer than we have, well before 2005. But when we started working on this with a funding grant from Sloan, our mandate and charter was to try and come up with a way to help libraries accelerate in a low-cost method. It's approximately 10 cents a page, to digitize a book greater than 150 pages, slightly higher cost if it's smaller. We looked at commercial equipment, and while there's some really cool stuff out there, it was oh so expensive, and it was oh so non-open source. So we ended up building our own equipment. We shoot everything in color because, heck, the world's in color, so why not capture it in color? We use high-speed cameras, high resolution. This particular one is 21 megapixels. We use museum-grade lighting. We don't try and bleach the paper digitally. It looks the same as what it is when we open the book. The book sits in a cradle. The cradle shape allows for 3 different sizes, major sizes, 600 ppi, 500, and 400 ppi size. So you can get books up to about 10 by 12. Larger books, maps, or fold-outs will be done with an overhead camera. And this is what it looks like when the book is sitting in the cradle. It's shaped about 110 degrees, so the book is not overstressed. Someone said, geez, it looks like a martini glass, about the same angle. Can't vouch for that personally. But the books have very, very little stress or wear put on them. And with over 1.4 million books that we've personally digitized, we've never lost a book. So we're very respectful of the books in terms of how we handle them. We work with the Library of Congress, British Library, Harvard, University of California to develop a very, I think, high-level spec of how to handle books or materials as they're sent to our digitization centers. It's foot-pedal driven. So being a nonprofit, of course, we've branded this our new health club, and our staff works diligently and vigilantly to make sure that items are posted upline with the best quality that they can. This is what the setup looks like when it's all together. You'll see the computer on the left, which processes the images before they're sent back to San Francisco to be digitized. I'm asked frequently, how long does it take to scan a book? Well, it's about 30 minutes. And then how long does it take to process it? A little under 12 hours, and the book is up online the next day. We usually say a 72-hour turnaround from when a book enters the scanning center until it leaves. My staff is high quality, trained, and a great group, and over 70% of my staff has been with me longer than a year to 2 years. So we find people that like what they do and they stay. Presently, we have scanning centers in 30 locations in 6 countries, and we're doing 1 ebook every minute, Monday through Friday. Works out to about 12 to 1,500 ebooks a day. And we'll soon be in South America, and we have conversations going about Africa and also Australia. So we're working our way through the 7 major continents. If anybody has a lead of how we can get into Antarctica, please let me know. So let me switch, Michael, and talk a little bit about our vision. What do we want this ebook library to be? And there's some wonderful national treasures, our Library of Congress. There's some wonderful local treasures, the Lancaster Historical Society. So what would an ebook library look like that would span the range between big to small, unique to quirky, to delightful to insightful? We'd like big numbers. So we said, well, what about a 10 million ebook library? Why 10 million? Well, that's about the size of Yale or Princeton or the Boston Public Library. So wouldn't it be so cool if everybody could click online and have access to those resources? The 10 million books we break up into 3 categories. The public domain, 2 million titles, we think would be a nice number to have. Turns out we already are at 3 million, so we're over 20% of the way there. Those books are free, no use restrictions on them. They can be downloaded with unlimited use and then reuse. At the other end, 1 million books we think should be the modern books. Modern being defined as in print, in copyright, just released. And we would like to buy the files for these books. So we have ongoing discussions with authors, publishers, rights holders to try and get 1 million of these books to go into our 10 million book library. We feel the difference, the 7 million books, I'd call those out of print, but we're going to end up having to digitize to lend those books. So we can buy what we'd like to buy what we can, digitize what we can't, and then also be very respectful of the public domain and put as much up as possible. So let's talk about those 2 terms, digitizing and lending, buying and lending, and see how that led us to get to the point of where we are. Well, one of the things we first looked at was buy versus rent, and how are books, which are typically bought, different from ebooks, which in many cases people have been trying to rent ebooks. Well, the thing we like about buying is, maybe it's our Germanic heritage that many of us have, is you buy it once, you pay for it once and you own it. We can do a lot of things with it. In the book world, we have rights that have been granted to libraries about how to do uses of it and new users, how we'd organize and present the items, and how we would distribute preservation. Renting, we cringe a little bit when we think about renting and books and use those 2 together. Why? Well, you have to pay every year or every time period or you lose access. Control of formatting from the outside, whoever owns that content, might or might not be what we would like it to be. Control over the presentation organization, again, might not be what our patrons expect. And things might or might not be preserved. If they're not preserved, does that really go and fly in the face of the model that we have as libraries to try and preserve knowledge? Licensing and monopolies. Again, we kind of cringed our eyes up a little bit and said, well, geez, we saw things like bundling, which might give us what we want or too much or not enough. We worried that price increases in a market that was not liquid might really put more pressure on budgets which are tight already in libraries. And we also worried that integrated services that might come from one country or a company or organization, again, might not be goal congruent with where we think the free flow of information should be. We worried, as we studied what happened in the industry, that licensing maybe ended up creating monopolies. Maybe in some ways, libraries have been promulgating monopolies as we go forward. The institutions I have here are wonderful institutions, and none of this is a criticism of them. But what we've noticed as we observed is they tend to be more monolithic and ended up creating an environment with fewer publishers, fewer services, and one view. Our takeaway? Well, we thought that renting instead of buying might reduce many library services to customer service departments, perhaps with cafes. We just didn't like the direction that was going in. So we scratched our head, we got some bright people together, and we said, what do we want? Well, in a perfect world, we'd like to have many publishers, booksellers, love having lots of libraries contributing to the 10 million ebook library, including the quirky ones. They're my faves. Many authors to get paid, and we'd like everyone to be a reader. So our bumper stickers from that session was we said we'd like to buy all the ebook files that we can just outright so we can lend them rather. We'd like to digitize our older books, post-1922, say up to pre-2000, into an ebook format. We'd like to lend these ebooks. We'd like to distribute them as much as possible through open platforms like web browsers. The iPads are oh so cool, the Kindles, the Nooks, and the ones that are still being contemplated. But those require the user to buy a device. And we might or might not be beholden to DRM software or use restrictions that would allow a book to be seen from the lending library on that device unless it came from the person who made that device. So we like open platforms and web browsers. We have some really cool tools I'll show you about shortly. And the last thing that dawned on us is serving really is now as difficult, it's as easy as running a library catalog. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the experience we had that got us to the point today where we have 1,000 libraries on board. We have 51 state librarians, including District of Columbia, who have signed an MOU to push this out, and how it's so easy to go ahead and lend modern ebooks. Well, we actually have been in the ebook business, if you will, since 2005. We have 2 million unique classic titles. These are what we're calling our public domain collection, highly curated by librarians such as yourself. And we're running, when I looked last weekend at the numbers, over 10 million downloads per month in these books. In 2010, with funding from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act and the small generous donation from the K.L. Austin Foundation, we chose to digitize modern ebooks, books that were published after 1922 up through and including things that just were published in the last couple of weeks and hit the shelves. And working with the Library of Congress and the legally mandated Chafee Amendment, we were able to put 150,000 modern ebooks up online for the print disabled or reading disabled, and we've been doing this since 2010. This was discussed in the Wall Street Journal, Library Blog, and many other blogs, and we had 0 comments, negative comments in terms of publishers or authors. They liked it. And boy, it was so cool to be able to go back to the print disabled community and say, you now have the best digital library on the planet to help you with learning and expansion of knowledge. So we took that after 2010, so we learned how to handle DRM. We learned how to check a book out, check a book in. We learned how to do lending, and we learned how to manage a disparate group of users, patrons. So we said, let's go ahead and roll that out a little bit further. So the proposal that we did, we went out to 4 main groups of libraries, public libraries, research libraries, some quirky libraries, and state-funded libraries, and said, what if we could deliver ebooks to your patrons from inside your library through your terminals, your Wi-Fi, and so forth, or from outside your library, accessing it through Easy Proxy or WAM? What if we could put 200,000 ebooks in that pool, give you a 2-week loan period, and it's 1 person per copy, not 1 copy per person. It's 1 1 person per digital copy, no cost. All you have to do is contribute 1 book, and it's free. They said we'd love it. So in February of 2011, not quite leap year, we released at ALA, or announced at ALA, we had 150 libraries from 4 main library groups, which are listed here, that signed on for the program. Today, that's grown to over 1,000 libraries in 8 countries. And I want to give you a brief overview of how the experience works online and what, say, the Boston Public Library or a patron of the Boston Public Library would experience trying to borrow a book, digital book from the in-library lending model. This would work in Nebraska, it would work in any of the other states that are represented on this phone call today. So the pins here are the physical address. You can go into the library, log into one of their terminals, and after getting a library card from the open library, you'll see Robert Miller, that's me, I have my library card here. I now have the opportunity to borrow up to 200,000 ebooks, and those numbers will be increasing. So I'm going to take a look here through the carousel, and I'm going to choose HTML5 for web designers. A couple things I want to point out. First, where the red arrow is saying, this is where I go to borrow the book. Sadly, this one's checked out. There's some eager beavers in the audience, I'm sure, who want to try and raise their HTML skills, so they've borrowed this book. The other thing I want to point out is under HTML, you'll see it says published in 2010. Well, we actually have bought the ebook right for this and now can digitally lend it. I'm going to go find a second book to try and check out digitally. You'll see again, this is published in 2004. We've negotiated and bought the ebook file for this so that we can digitally lend it. You'll see on the right-hand side, there's no indication that I can't borrow it. Top above that where it says read, if I had a DAISY number and were reading disabled or print disabled, that's where I would put my DAISY access number so I could look at that. And if I wanted to buy the books, we encourage people to buy physical books. We've listed a couple of locations you can go ahead and buy this particular title. Now, there's two ways to read the book. If I knew I was not going to be online, I'm going to fly cross country, I'm going overseas, my house doesn't have Wi-Fi, I can download from the library lending model, after installing Adobe Digital Edition software, a PDF. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And this particular title that I have in my non-browser version is Power and Love, Theory and Practice of Social Change. And this is what it looks like inside my PDF viewer. It's easy to read, pages flip. It's pretty nice to go ahead and use. I now also want to show you how to read it inline. So I'm going to go back, and in this case I found a book that's pre-2000, published in 1994. It was donated by the Boston Public Library. We give them attribution for it. And when they donated the book, they said, what type of book should we donate? I said, I don't know, how about something that's genealogical? How about something that has history or relevance to your local patrons? They said, great, Mayflower ancestors and their descendants. So we digitized that. We put it in. We gave library attribution. I want to read this in my browser, which means I can read it as long as I'm connected to the internet. So I am connected to the internet. I push the button, and within seconds, the book has started to stream to my laptop, and I'm reading it in my browser. And this browser was developed with funding from the Library of Congress. It's open source. It's oh so cool, really, really easy to use. And I think people will be very happy with it. You can do search in it, full text search, et cetera, et cetera. There's also a very quick, lightweight library card. It says, well, what's my progress against the 5 books I'm allowed to take out, and when do I have to return the books? Well, in this case, this is from an older slideshow. This book had to be back at the end of October. If I didn't do that, it would automatically melt. So I don't have to worry about late fees. I don't have to worry about not graduating from high school because I didn't return my book. And this is the fashion and the model that we have right now. Our feet are wet. We're in the water. We're adding other tool sets and tool features. So there's some things not included in the Open Library right now, which I can talk about later, which we'll be adding in the future. But I think it's a pretty good system for a start. Who's joined? I'm so proud to list names of librarians such as Joe Budler from Kansas, and Stacy from California, Mary Boone from North Carolina, University of Toronto, and many, many others. And I hope, with the work that Rod Wagner, State Librarian of Nebraska, we'll have many, many librarians signing up from Nebraska and beyond. I've mentioned the 51 state librarians, including DC, with COSLA, and we're also getting increased interest from many countries overseas. How do you find the books when they're online? Well, you can have a direct link to openlibrary.org, openlibrary.org, and again, I'll mention you get an Open Library card, free digital card, and that will allow you to check out books. We don't register, we don't keep track of the names of the people. Or we have an API that will allow you to take these titles and put these into your catalog. Or you can do a bulk mark transfer, which I don't recommend because it's tough to update. Those are the 3 ways you can go ahead and get the records or books accessible. How to join? It's pretty easy. Contact me, robert@archive.org. And again, the punchline, send me 1 physical book from 1923 to the year 2000 inclusive. What book do you pick? Pick something that's local history, pick something that's genealogical, pick something that your local patrons would like. Send it to me. We'll digitize it and then put it into our high-density long-term storage container, and we'll be in business. We'll keep an IP address on file with you, and that will allow your patrons to access the IP address or addresses that they would come to your site with. Name of a contact person. Oh, and the other thing, when I say PD books, we'd like just to make sure that you too also support the fact that all public domain books should be open and free to all. And that's it, you're done. So with that, Michael, I'm going to turn the control back to you, or let you take it from me, and I'll be glad to field questions. But thanks for letting me spend a few minutes on Leap Day talking about books as we leap forward into the new generation and era of lending.
Great, Robert. That was wonderful. I'm going to leave control with you just in case you've got like a website you want to pull up or an example as we're going through some questions here. Audience, if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or if you want to speak them, and we can turn on your microphone, or you can type them into the questions area. I, of course, always have questions of our speakers, and that's not with even planning ahead very much, because and I will admit I crossed out 2 of my questions that I had written down as you were speaking because you then answered them. So that's wonderful. My first question is how much those storage modules cost? My wife thinks I need one. I have questions.
I think it's the high-tech version of a walk-in closet, right?
Yes, yeah, pretty much. A lot of my books are in boxes, unfortunately, because space. So no, I probably don't want to know how much one of those things costs. Before we get to the books products, if I could and ask you just a couple of general questions about the archive.org, the Internet Archive itself, for those on the line who may not be familiar with it. Can you give us just a little more of the background of how the Internet Archive started and why with Brewster Kahle?
Bruce is one of the most fascinating people I've met. I think he's a true visionary and just an incredibly creative person. Brewster had 2 really nice levels of success. He developed a company. He started with thinking machines after graduating from MIT, had a small company that was sold to AOL and a larger company that was sold to Amazon. And as opposed to cashing out, buying an island, and getting a new car, getting a bigger house, rents his own house, drives an old ragtop torn Miata, and is really pursuing a dream he's had, as he's told me, since his early teenage years, when he read about the Library of Alexandria and the impact upon the world, where purportedly 25, maybe 30% of the world's knowledge was under one roof. The challenge was you had to get to that roof, camel, horse, donkey, foot, and with the fastest mode of transportation up until about 1850 only being about 5 or 6 miles per hour, it would take people just an inordinate amount of time to get there. So what he saw with the opportunities with the internet and some of the technology coming down was a chance to rebuild the Library of Alexandria, and at the click of a button, touch of a key, have access to knowledge greater than 25% for not just people who had access to Alexandria, but people who could even think of Alexandria. So 1996 is when we started the company, started the nonprofit, and began to digitize the web at that standpoint, capturing images of web pages, which, as we all know, go extinct after about 30 days. So with 150 billion, you can go back through time, study, evaluate, explore, and learn about what's happened since 1996 in the digital era.
Great, thanks. And like I say, I've been a user of the Wayback Machine, I think, since it started. So I love this site. One other question about the archive, not related to books. The commission in the past has used the archive to post some audio and some video onto it. And the main reason at the time, to be 100% honest, was we had the 15-minute limit on YouTube, and you didn't have that limit for us. So I guess what would be the benefit to contributing content, aside from books for the moment, to the Internet Archive site as opposed to, say, posting it on YouTube or some other video service or audio hosting service?
I would say do both. I think there's many paths to victory. I think the model that a Google or another web has, and I have a lot of respect for those organizations, is different than the model that we have in the library community. We're in it for the long term. We want, in general, free sharing of information, access to information. There's typically not a commercial message attached to it, and our view is the long view. So uploading it to the archive site, here are some of the things that you have with it. If you do the work to upload it, we will continue to maintain it, offer unlimited downloads where applicable. For example, in the public domain, there might be some limited restrictions if it's a modern book, but we'll go ahead and really take care and make sure that that item stays relevant and current going forward in the future. And part of it, as you know, Michael, as various internet services go extinct, actually people have been moving that data to the Internet Archive because of our commitment to longevity, because of our commitment to preservation, and commitment to access. So I would say do both. Upload it where, on your hometown, and then go ahead and also put it into the archive.
Great. Yeah, you suddenly reminded me. I remember a while back, maybe a year or so ago, Google Video was threatening to just delete everything, and I seem to recall participating in some sort of software group that was trying to download everything off of it and then get it back into the archive to kind of preserve it. And I think the need either disappeared or a better solution was found. But yeah, kind of, I always look at it as that longevity, that kind of commitment to access is wonderful. Okay, so on to the books, and we got a question from the audience in combination with a question that I had for you. I personally have some books that I would like to contribute. Can I do that as an individual, and then can individuals get access to this collection either as a result of that or just separate from, my library doesn't participate yet? What sort of level of individuals as opposed to libraries can participate in this?
Sorry, great question. So just to repeat from the beginning, a library, what we'd ask, so if the Omaha Public Library wanted to join, pull one book off the shelf, don't agonize over what it's going to be, email me, robert@archive.org. We'll send you the physical address to mail the books to, which I'll give you right now. It's 300 Funston, F as in Frank, U-N as in Nancy, S-T-O-N Street, 300 Funston Street. That's in San Francisco, California, 94118, 94118, attention Ginger, So it's 300 Funston, San Francisco, California, 94118. Now, what we'll do with that physical book is, as funds become available, we'll digitize that and then put that back. Actually, if it's coming from a library, we'll digitize it right away. We'll also send you a form to fill out your IP address so we can register that, and then that library and all the patrons are connected immediately. If it's an individual patron, like you mentioned, they're welcome also to mail us books. As funding becomes available, we'll go ahead and digitize those. We are currently raising funds to get the next 1 million books up online. I can talk a little bit later if you'd like about what some of the problems and opportunities are with that and why we think that's the right thing to do. But yes, we welcome contributions from individuals, and they can follow the same path of mailing a book to us. And as it becomes funding is available, we'll go ahead and digitize it.
Okay, two follow-ups. One, can I send you a check with the book to cover it? And then
that would be so nice. Sorry, when it comes to money, I have to interrupt. We would love it. It costs roughly 10 cents a page, so
okay.
If you send a $30 check with the book you mail us, we'll then go ahead and use that to pay for the cost of digitization. And that would be, hand clap, that would be wonderful to do.
Well, I'm a published author, so, I could send you one of mine. And I suppose I could, well, I don't know. We'll get to the copyright issues later. Would that then, if I've contributed, would that get me then access to the collection?
Yes. Now, what we're encouraging the state librarians to do is to allow us to turn on what's called a GeoIP. And I'm sure in one of your tech talks you've talked about GeoIPs, Geographic IP Address. So it would recognize if the patron was in the state of Nebraska, for example, and then you would see what I'm showing on the screen here. It says, hello, Internet Archive is participating in our in-library lending program. What it would say is Nebraska is participating in our in-library lending program. Browse the growing lending library of 200,000 ebooks. So this would be a way to shortcut that as we're waiting for the libraries to come on board. Once Rod gives us the go-ahead in one book, we'll turn on the whole state, and then an individual user would have access to it. We think that the fun thing about crowdsourcing a library like this is, well, someone can say, well, I don't need to send a book to have access to it. Well, that's true. But it would be really nice if you would, because we want to grow this library. We want the library to be a reflection of the community that it serves and offer materials that individuals have felt have been unique and beneficial.
Okay, so I'll go give Rod a book. we'll get this going somehow. Okay, we have some other questions from the audience. Krista, do you want to share those?
Okay, so we did the can individuals.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Someone wants to know what percentage of the books are fiction?
Well, that's a really good idea. I would guess at this standpoint, and then I'll tell you why I'm handicapping my guess, that it's probably a little over 50% are fiction.
Okay.
How did we get the first 200,000 books? Well, we worked with some San Francisco Public Libraries. I know from when my staff pulled the books that the fiction, nonfiction, slightly more fiction we took than nonfiction. But we also worked with some organizations like a Libris and books where they had extras. They donated as a public service effort to us. I know most of those books that came through were fiction as opposed to nonfiction. So if I had to guess, I would probably say 60, maybe 70% are fiction.
Nice.
Great.
40, 30% are nonfiction.
Okay.
Okay, another question we have here is, have any libraries from the National Library Service joined, and are the books compatible with the new digital talking book machines from the National Library Service? Talking book and braille type things?
I believe if it reads a DAISY format, it will read on those devices. So it's the short version with that. Mm-hmm. And out of the 1,000 libraries, I believe we do have some libraries that have joined that are part of the NLS.
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry. Don't these covers look great? Look at how it is in color here online.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
And speaking of which, we do have probably over 10,000 books that are children's books.
Wow.
That we've
nice.
digitized. So there's wonderful children's books.
Great. Okay, two potentially shorter questions, and then I've got the big copyright question we'll save kind of for the end here. Are the book, kind of thinking of Google Books, is the content of the books in your collection searchable, or are we pretty much title author sort of searching here?
Content searchable. So I have this book here. Can you pass these tests? So I'm going to say, let's see if there's something about airplane pilots in here. So I'm going to type this in the search engine. It's doing a full text search inside this book. And I also could do a title author when I was back in the macro view of the library. Now what you see here in the bottom, if it's coming through clearly, these pins show where the word pilot's used. So in this case, it'll tell me what page it's on and what the paragraph is around it. Really a nice reader. I can click on it and it'll take me right to that section of the page. And I'm going to blow this up a little bit so people can see it. You didn't ask this, but you were probably thinking to yourself, can I see it in a single page view, Michael? Absolutely, yes you can. And you're probably saying, geez, wouldn't it be cool if I could scan the whole book like this? So if I was looking for a particular image or photo or chapter heading, yes, I could find the Whiz Quiz or the Wine Master. So these are some of the nice tool sets that are here within it. I could also, hopefully this will work, you had asked a question about audio. There you go. So hopefully I can stop my audio now. But yes, you'll get a, hold on, please stop. Stop something. Good.
Okay, so it's, oh, go ahead.
Nope, please.
Okay, so it's keyword searchable within a particular book, but not necessarily at the macro level. So if I wanted to find, all books that mention a particular person, I would have to pick the book and then search within the book.
Nope, I'm going to put Miller in here.
Oh.
I don't know why I picked that, but sure. Hey, I got 46,000 hits of Miller in here. So I could sort these by relevance. I could sort these by who had the most editions from Miller. I could put a separate thing in here and say author and do it something like that. And you'll see over on the right-hand side, there's faceted browsing that now comes up within the term Miller. So author, subject, people, and so forth.
Great. Okay. Do we have another audience question?
Yeah, we have a couple more. Yeah. Someone wants to know, and you may have kind of answered this by showing it there, but does a patron need any special software to view any of these or access any of them?
Great question.
No, great question. If you have access to a web browser, that's what I'm using here. I happen to be on a Mac. I've also read books on my iPhone, just going through the browser. So very, very easy.
Okay. And if someone is interested in participating, should they first check and make sure the book that they want to send isn't already in the collection? Or do you
can, if you'd like to go that extra step, if you think it's more local and more unique, we're trying to get 7 million online and have 200,000 right now, so your odds of finding something, if it looks unique to you, it's probably wonderfully unique to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no more Daniel Steele. They probably got it.
Oh, we have stacks of it, exactly.
How about National Geographics? No, sorry. Just anyways, thinking about donations to libraries. Okay, you had an interesting question, because this has been kind of an issue with Pinterest lately, which we've been talking a lot about in Nebraska. I saw you had like links to Amazon and links to Libris and that to buy the book. Are you or the libraries, are you monetizing that, or is it just a link to the site?
Just a link to the site. On the deaccession side, for example, one of the major public libraries, which I won't mention their name, but in Boston, when they send things to us, we go through the books, the deaccession book first, pull out the one copy that we want, replace that with another physical copy, and then they have a relationship with a book reseller, and they get accrue any dollars that come from that. So right now, the way things are, we're not trying to get between the library and perhaps any chance to monetize reselling of a deaccessioned or a second copy. So I think I answered your question there, that we're trying to make sure that dollars flow back to the authors and the publishers.
Great. Okay. All right. So anything else from the audience at the moment? Okay. I'm going to ask the big question. The copyright issues with what you are doing. What makes you think this is all okay?
Okay.
It's a loaded question. I mean, I know what you're doing, but that's...
Yeah. First of all, I'm not an attorney.
Sure.
We have worked with attorney who puts on the law blog. We've worked with the Boston Public Library, who researched this through their attorney because they are funded with public dollars. We've worked with many of the primary partner libraries who started the 150 libraries, and they went back to their counsel, and the things that came back to us were right of first sale and fair use. And if you own a copy, you can loan a copy. So if I look to the libraries, the physical bricks and mortar libraries, boy, they've been entrusted with in copyright, non-copyright materials for, I don't know, forever. So I think we're following a model that's very similar to what they're doing. We're respectful of the book. We only make sure there's one digital copy at a time in circulation for a physical copy that we have.
Great. That was probably the most succinct answer to that question I could have possibly ever heard. It boils down to you have a print analog. I mean, you're pulling it in, and you're a registered library, which I think helps. But which Google is not. Have you gotten any kickback? Have any publishers or authors groups or whatever had some serious issues or complaints or lawsuits even, to your knowledge?
Very, very minimal. We've had questions that have come up. I remember the one time before we actually released the modern books, back in 2006, 2007, we had a gentleman named Kofi Annan, who you might remember as the former Secretary of the UN, Secretary General of the UN, and he had a children's book that turned out that he wanted to have digitized so that he could send it around to people. So he mailed it to us, we digitized it, gave him the identifier, and we went along fat, dumb, and happy, and pretty soon we had a letter from a publisher saying, you don't have the ability to do that. So we took that book down. If we were doing that again in the future, what would happen, or now, we would have the physical copy, and we would keep the physical copy. So again, we tried to be respectful. We tried to follow the rules as they're outlined and have been made clear to us as we go forward.
Yeah, sounds great. I mean, when I first heard about it, that was a very different take on the previous projects I was aware of, and I'm one of these very liberal people when it comes to fair use and copyright and whatever. So I just thought, but that's a very different way of looking at it, and I think it kind of covers the major concerns. They still might not like it, but yeah, it sounds like it's a great model.
Well, I think we're in an era of transition.
Yes.
Libraries have done a wonderful service for our towns, our cities, our states. They've helped us, keep our communities strong, and we're having an open, I think, somewhat tortured discussion about how do we move from one media type to the other, things that people couldn't have anticipated. And so we're really proud to be a part of that discussion. We're proud to be working with fabulous libraries. We're trying to develop tools. What I have up on here on the screen, you're probably saying to yourself, geez, how could I follow what somebody else is reading? Or could I create a subcategory of things that were important to me, my family name? Well, we have a tool where you can go ahead and you can create lists of the type books or follow lists that other people have put together. And right now we have 1,600 books that are there. We have a means that if you'd like to add or update a field within a book that we have, a record, you can go ahead and do that. You can add a public domain book yourself to the library through here. There's some interesting things. If you click around the site, you don't have to have contributed a book to use the main portion of the open library, because we have over 1 million public domain titles in here. It's just if you want to go ahead and use the lending library of 200,000 books, you would need to register with a book or an IP address to your library and then get a library card, which I'm highlighting here in the upper right.
Quick comment there. The person who created the cookery books list must be a librarian, because only a librarian would use the term cookery. And possibly
our wonderful librarian inside on staff, Alexis. I think she created that.
Oh, okay, yes, and she's probably a cataloger too. And just to kind of clarify a point, which I think you did, but for the benefit of the audience, through then Adobe Digital Editions, you could then transfer these books to an e-reading device, right? You don't have to read them on the computer screen, correct?
You'll have to, right? You'll have to just check and make sure what works. And boy, they're changing so quickly. We're not even sure sometimes what you can find things on. But as long as you have a browser, you're in, which is great.
Right. I'm just thinking similar to Overdrive, which most libraries use. That once it's in Adobe Digital Editions, excuse me, that then handles the DRM for transferring to other devices and things. So okay, that should work. Pending any changes in publishers and all that other thing.
That happens daily.
Yeah, daily changes. Okay, we had a few more audience questions?
Yeah.
Great.
Going back to the accessibility, someone wants to know, I'm not sure if you know this, how can a blind person obtain a DAISY access number? Do you know?
Sure, they go through the Library of Congress, and you have to prove that you're print disabled or sight reading disabled, and there's a fairly structured path to do this. I think in parallel, I haven't done this personally, but there are many public libraries that are reading disabled or print disabled library reference sites, and they can also help. For example, in San Francisco, SFPL has a very active Reading for the Blind program. The name might be different in different cities or states.
And I would guess that's something we could help with at the commission too, assuming
Talking about the Braille
in
service
Nebraska.
that we are here, yes.
Yeah.
Another
You had
question.
asked a little bit about some of the libraries, if there's any NLS libraries in here. These are just some of the participating libraries here, from Half Moon Bay Library, one of our local ones in California, to Regis College Library in Toronto. If I slide out here to the ends, we'll hopefully see some. We'd love to see Nebraska right up there in the beginning.
We're working on it.
Yes, we are.
And they've got to have a library at McGuirdo Station on down in Antarctica. I think you really need to call them and get them.
If you have an introduction, I would love to do something on, I don't know, seals or emperor penguins, maybe. That might
there
be
you go. Yeah.
Or snow and ice, something like that. Fire and ice, maybe.
Another audience question?
Yep. Do you have any circulation statistics that publishers or libraries can look at about the books that are being actually lent out?
Yes. Let me, if I seem to be stuck here, let's see if I can get up to the Okay, so let's go to stats.
Oh, there you go.
Oh. 3.
In general, I would say right now about 1% of our books are in circulation at any time. We'd like to have that number go up, and I think it will as people get more exposure to it. One of the issues that you're probably saying to yourself, I just did the math, there's 300 million people in the United States, you have 200,000 books. I'd hate to be number 1,334th in line to borrow that HTML5 book. How are you guys going to handle that? Good question. We're in discussion with libraries right now about how to carry forward with a one-copy lending model. And right now, I would say that libraries, full disclosure, should go into this program knowing that it's probably going to address the longer tail of books. So if you need books more modern, from 2000 to 2012, leap year next time, a service like Overdrive might be the right way to go. So I see this as a belt and suspenders approach. You can see the loans per day listed here. I'll make this a little bit bigger so you have a chance of reading it. Let's see if that'll slide over a little bit. There you go. And funding, you're probably also saying, Michael, well, okay, let's talk about funding. I know we have 1 more minute here. We're working with libraries to put a funding model in place. We don't want a subscription model. We do want to have a model where you purchase the database, if you will, and then that library would own that database forever. So it's not a reoccurring charge.
Great.
Thanks so much for letting me play along today. Really
oh yeah, no, this was wonderful. It's one of those projects where I've been aware of, and I just have not had the time to really sit down with it. And this I'm going to be now definitely even more. That was wonderful, and I see you have the register your library up there. So yes, we'll definitely encourage that. Any other questions from the audience? We got them all covered?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. All right, well.
Good.
All right, yeah, well, we've pretty much done an hour. So, Robert, I want to thank you very much for finding the time to do this for us. We really appreciate it. I assume that they can contact you directly if they have any questions.
Absolutely. Robert@archive.org, and thanks again.
Yeah, really appreciate it. So, with that, Krista, you want to go ahead and do your wrap-up? Yep.
We're going to take back control.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay. We're going to take back control here real quick. And do you want me to bring it?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do that.
All right. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you very much for attending this week's edition of NCompass Live. That was, yes, very cool information. This week's session was actually a suggestion by Rod Wagner, the director here at the Library Commission, who was at the COSLA meeting recently and saw Robert talk about this, and so he sent me an email and said, hey, this would be really cool. And so it was, and we did it. So if you have any ideas for sessions, let me know, and we can drag in anybody we want.
Yep.
I bet. So I hope you join us next week. You can click on the actual thing, where our topic will be about the American Fact Finder, Census Bureau's online data retrieval tool. We have David Drodds from the Center for Public Affairs Research here in Nebraska, who will be sharing with us how you can use this to get a lot of census information. So that will be our NCompass Live for next Wednesday. So thank you very much for attending, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.